Welcome to Interstellar Cosmic Conversations, where we share experiences from our hearts to empower others. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Interstellar Cosmic Conversations. Today, our special guest is Michael Harrell. He is the creator of Language Lessons of the Heart, and the focus being on the end of pain and the return to loving life. Welcome, Michael.
Hello. We got a little few people here. I'm so happy to, get a chance to talk. You got a great channel, and I felt a little intimidated actually to, you got these great speakers and people who write books and things.
Well, don't be intimidated. Like I told you earlier, I get the butterflies every time that I do this myself. I'm pushed out of my comfort zone. I'm very much an introvert, but I just know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing now. And so I'm putting myself out there and I'm doing it. And especially now I feel more comfortable in my awareness of where I fit in doing these types of interviews. And I'm positive that my focus should be on relationships, the healing of humanity, anything that supports us in empowerment, and less of all the mind control programming that's going on. And one of the things that I wanted to share before we get into this, because I thought it would be really beneficial for anyone that's not familiar with you to hear something that I actually copied off of your group About Me section. And the reason that I want to share this is because to me this is founded in truth. And this is something that Michael has written about the work that he does. And it says, I cannot say enough about emotional release as a practice. Nothing makes your subconscious conscious like emotional release. Nothing shifts your powerlessness to personal power like emotional release. Nothing heals your deepest wounds like emotional release. Do this, and not only will you get huge amounts of your memory back, but you connect to every living thing that has ever suffered, a true compassionate connection to all beings. And I think that is just beautifully expressed.
Wow, what a great introduction. It's not like I wrote it myself.
So you are a writer.
Yeah. About getting your memory back. I have my memory back. Okay. And I don't usually talk about this stuff because, for a long time, it would just intimidate the hell out of people because seems like to them, it might be beyond their reach, but in actuality, it's not. This is a nice segue into the healing modality. I remember the earth cooling down, and I was there with a lot of people. I remember the Godhead in the second creation, and all that stuff, and I remember the first creation. So I actually have memory of the beginning of creation. And in terms of being on Earth, I've been around Earth, associated with Earth, and watched Earth, and been on Earth, and participated in Earth from the beginning. Earth is a pretty amazing place. And the way I got my memory back was by doing the process work that I call Language Lessons of the Heart, healing and evolving your emotional body. And the result is the end of pain in the life and the return of life, loving life. That's kind of what you're going for. So Language Lessons of the Heart is based on having 4 aspects of self. Everybody knows about chakras, right? So we have 3 chakras up here, and then a heart chakra, and 3 chakras down here, right? But my healing modality is based on spirit, heart, will. Will is down here in your belly, and then your body. Those 4 energies are you. And if you work with those 4 energies, then you can resolve a lot of issues, because your head can be your parent and your belly can be your inner child, or your head is the man and your belly is the woman, with the heart in the middle. So all kind of inner dynamics, you're talking about the natural man and the natural woman. Well, in reality, it is the inner man and the inner woman. If that conflict is not happening, then it's going to reflect out to the outside. So the natural man is your spirit that is in line and in love with your will. And the natural feminine is the will that doesn't have any pain, doesn't have any programming, and they both meet in the heart, which is why I call it like the heart. Oh. I hear echo. You hear echo?
No echo.
Oh. Okay, so I just told you that I have memory that goes all the way back to the beginning of creation, and to the beginning of polarity, the beginning of separation, and the descent into matter. So really, when you do healing on your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body in this lifetime, it actually heals all the way back to the beginning of creation. So the difference that I have between other modalities is you start with that you are infinite and immortal in what was never created. When I know this may sound strange, but that's where you start. You're infinite and immortal in what was never created. So that's who we are. Can everybody say that? Can everybody say that?
No, I absolutely 100% agree with that, because this whole concept that we are created is what has caused us to become unempowered. To know that we're infinite creator beings and that we're actually participated in another's creation is a part of exploration. It's a journey of discovery. It's not, we're not here. We're not like sinners in, some God's creation. We're here, but with intent. We came here with a will of intention to create and co-create. And so we exist beyond this creation. And so that's really important and that is hard for people to grasp, because we have been taught that we have a creator and that we're not creators. So to be able to say I'm an infinite creator being that within itself is very empowering and hard for people to say.
So this is a first understanding, which is that you're infinite, immortal, and what was never created. Okay? And here's a second understanding, that the universe, this is real important, the universe is absolute inclusivity and unconditional love. Okay? That's might sound kind of vague, but whatever is exclusive is less than loving, you see? Whatever is conditional is not what you want. So that's the guideline. Okay, and now if you're infinite and immortal in what was never created, that means that you can't actually be wounded. You can't actually be hurt. You can't actually be, anything really happening to you. So what it actually is, what your wounds actually are, is energy in your energy in your biofield that are clouding you from feeling your connection to the reality of who you are. So it's just this energy. So it's very much like house cleaning. If you have so much clutter in your house that you can't live in there anymore, then that's not really a wound. That's not really means your house is broken. It just means if you clear out all the stuff that's doesn't belong in your house, then your house is nice again. See, in a way, this is very, very, very simple stuff. So simple. I tell you, my work is so simple that the mind, and it's so anti-mind that the mind can't grasp how simple it is. Let me tell you, when you're a child, and that's when we get all wounded and stuff, right? You're conditioned. You're told to behave, right? You have to behave. And that's the beginning of behavior modification, which is what we call a matrix, which is we call civilization, culturalization, becoming a cult du jour, So it's that behave business. And so then we get loaded up with all this stuff of I'm not good enough, I'm not accepted, I'm not wanted, I'm not heard, I can't get what I want. All these things start to accumulate, and they become, because of frequency, right? Everybody know about frequency? Because of the frequency of the times that it was told to you, it becomes a habit. It becomes a reality that you live in because of the frequency. Yeah? The frequency of the amount of times that you're told, no, stop, don't do that, you're not good enough, stop doing that, clean up your rooms, eat your plate. So you can't watch TV, all that, no, no, no. I love you, but you know, if you have to do this and that, okay? That's a frequency. And the frequency gets recorded in your biofield. And that becomes your habit of life. So if your habit in life is to feel bad, then you can feel bad for 30, 40, 50 years because you have these messages that are telling you to feel bad. Yeah. Which none of them are true because you're infinite and you're immortal and what was never created. And all this stuff just got stuck onto you. Yeah. And you're trying to be inclusive, and the world wants you to be exclusive. You're only this, you're an identity. You're born in this country, you did this and you did that. Yeah. And so we accumulate those wounds. Children accumulate wounds automatically, subconsciously, non-verbally, and invisibly. Boom. You know, I'm not good enough. Life's not worth living. I can't get what I want. That becomes your mantra, you know, and then you make a story out of it, and that story becomes your life, and you live in that story. And this is what we heal. And that's just an energetic and a word thing. So let me tell you about, you know, Patricia did something a couple of videos back, and she told about her deepest wound. She told about her mother, who was a deeply disturbed woman who would take Patricia out to and let men sort of have their way with her at a very young age and for a long period of time. And that was her deepest wound. And she's like been, you know, part of the reason why she's digging herself out of this and becomes so fanatic on learning and growing and healing and wanting to know and wanting to change the world, because this world is pretty messed up. So what I thought I would do is something I haven't done for, I don't think ever, is I want to tell you about my deepest wound. And this will perhaps give you some understandings about where I'm coming from. So my deepest wound started in my last lifetime. My last lifetime, I was with a family of 7 brothers, and I was one of 2 kids of one of the 7 brothers, and they were going from Louisiana to Texas. And this is back in the, you know, back in the, I don't know, about 100 and maybe years ago. I think they still had cars and trains and stuff, but this was when, if you're going across land, you did it in wagons even then. So, and this was at the end of the Indian Wars, and their wagon train. So half of the brothers, there was 7 brothers, so 3 of them decided they wanted to go. My parents and my family and 2 other uncles decided they wanted to go to Colorado to live, and then the other ones decided they wanted to go to Texas. So 4 went to Texas, 3 went to Colorado. And as soon as they split up, within a few days, the Indians came and basically killed my whole family in my last lifetime. And only me and my sister survived because I was like 4 at the time. And so the chief of that little tribe, and the tribe wasn't very big, but then there again, there was only 3 families in these wagons, so it wasn't like a big deal. But so I went to go live with the chief and his wife and the family, and I was kind of like adopted. And I lived there for like 10 years. And then I didn't really get a chance to process like how my whole family was like completely killed and destroyed. And so then I'm living in this Indian village, And the Indians had tremendous resentment towards white people because at this time, it was the end of the Indian Wars, and Indians had been decimated all over the United States, and there was a bounty on their head where if you want to make an extra $5, you could go kill an Indian and scalp them, and then you get $5 like animals. So when I got to be around 14 or 15, the 4 or 5 of the braves in the Indian tribe said, "We got to get rid of this guy. You know, we don't like white people. There's been, you know, there was a big conflict in the Indian tribe, and so they kicked me out." Then I had to go to live with the white people. So I was like basically just had like buckskins on and had to walk into a town and try to survive that way. And I understood a little bit of English, but mostly I was speaking Indian language. And then I got a job as a, as a cowboy. What they did is actually take young guys like me, and you just go out on the reservation, and you go out where the cows are, and you just got to make sure that the wolves and coyotes and nobody steals the cows, and you know, that kind of stuff. Anyway, I didn't even last a year at that. I ended up dying there. And then that was that for that lifetime. The Indians found me, my Indian family found me, and ended up, I remember being buried in a tree so the birds could get me. Okay, then in this lifetime, my father was a military hero. He used to fly airplanes, and he flew torpedo bombers, and he was a squadron commander, and so that was faced death every day. And then after the war, 1949, 1950, he was living in Texas, Corpus Christi, Texas, with my mom, and he had issues. Okay, his issue was that his father was a Methodist minister, and he had 7 sisters, and his 7 sisters were all older than him, and they treated him like shit because they were dirt poor, and as a Methodist minister, he would have to go around, and so he had a pretty miserable childhood, and he couldn't handle the idea of living with 7 sisters. And I have 2 older sisters. So when my mom got pregnant with me, he said to my mom, if this child is a girl, I'm going to leave you. And of course, it was something he said when he was drunk. Okay. Now, what this did to my mom is a shock went through her, and it went through me. And then she started thinking about, you know, we lived in Corpus Christi, it's sort of like on the edge of town. It was on a dirt road. We didn't have any screens on the windows, and it was like a little, you know, basically a little. My dad was like a, what do you call it, exterminator with the bug spray guy in Texas, you know what I mean? So it was like pretty poor. And so she was freaking out. She didn't know what to do. So she kept this fear and terror of that she was going to be out on the street and with no money and no way to survive with 3 kids. So she really, really, really put a lot of energy into not wanting me, right? To reject me. And back then, you know, you couldn't have an abortion and stuff. So eventually I was born, and it was, you know, I was a boy, and that was good in a way. But my mom was went into a meltdown. She went into postpartum depression meltdown. And I mean, she was seeing bugs crawl on her, and she was psychotic, and she had to go away to a mental institution. And for like 6 months, she was gone. And then she had to get shock therapy, and she kind of burned her brains out. And then when she came back with like sort of wasn't really like a mother there. It was like she just acted like a mother. So here I am, and I felt all this stuff. So here I am with feeling like it was my fault that my mother was completely screwed up. Yeah. So I shut down. I didn't talk. I didn't walk. I didn't crawl. I didn't cry. I didn't do anything. I was just completely shut down. And that lasted for okay, here's one thing that happened is when I would just stay in my crib all the time, because my dad had to work, and then my older two sisters, they couldn't really take care of me and give me love or anything like that. So I didn't learn how to crawl, because they never put me on the floor to crawl. They just left me in the crib because I didn't complain. So it's crawling, right? When you crawl like this, when you learn how to crawl, that is where your left brain and your right brain connects. And if you don't crawl when you're a child, then your brain doesn't connect, and that gives you dyslexia. Your brain's not communicating. So that gave me dyslexia, which started off my school career, you know, having to fail in 3rd grade. And so I ended up with this huge, gigantic, world-class bad self-image. There's something wrong with me, right? I'm not good enough. You know, there's no love for me, and it's all this kind of stuff. And okay, but my whole family was like, you know, so my dad was, on one hand, is a really beautiful guy, but he was also a mass murderer. And he was also did this thing to my mother. Even though he loved her, he just sort of like shattered her whole life. And then there's me growing up. Then later on, by the time I got into high school and stuff, we moved around. But by the time I got into high school, my sister had problems. She got pregnant, and then they sent her off to go have the baby, which is what they did in the early 60s. They sent her off to go have the baby in Texas, and then something got messed up with the adoption thing. She ended up holding the child for like 2 weeks, and then had to give it up. And this made my sister go crazy, and she went completely crazy. So I spent my high school looking after my sister, who was suicidal and manic depressive and psychotic, and she would see animals and try to kill herself, and so that's was my deepest wound. So you can see that the reason why I'm saying this is that the destruction of my family to death in one lifetime, and then come into this lifetime and then the being rejected so powerfully and profoundly, and not loved by the Indian people, and then being rejected so profoundly and not loved by my own mother. And then, you know, so that's how I came into this world. That was my deepest wound. And that's what, like I said, a world-class bad self-image. I would think that everybody in the entire world was better and more worthy than I was. And but on the other side of the coin is I was kind of destined to bring this language lessons of the heart forward. So when I was in my 20s, I met my first enlightened man. And then by the time I was 22 or something, I had met 4 enlightened people. And one of them was a guru. And I started doing meditation, and I meditated for like 15 years. And so I had this bad self-image of like, you know, I can't even read, can't write, can't finish college, can't do any that kind of stuff. But then on this other side, I had this great power of illumination, of meditation and enlightenment. And then I had a midlife crisis, and some woman, a wise woman, said, "Hey, you're way out of touch with your emotional body. You know, you're having a meltdown. It's a midlife crisis. This is a dark night of the soul." And that's what started me on the process of doing language lessons of the heart. I learned little pieces at a time, and I just happened to get hooked up with, like I said, I'm having these masters come to me, and then also had teachers of healing teachers come to me. As like, I guess because I needed it, because I was in bad shape. So what happened, and all this is while I was a carpenter. So what happened was, as a carpenter, right, I can visualize what's going on in building a building, putting a window in a certain place. You have to see it and then make sure everything fits together and all the steps involved. So what I did was, I had this concentration that I had as a meditator, because I meditated for like 15 years, and I started off with meditating 6 hours a day, and by the end of it I was only an hour a day. but I had this incredible concentration. So when I actually learned how to go into my emotional body, I had this concentration, and I could see that how I became wounded. I actually saw the steps of how I became wounded. And then when I reversed those steps, that wound was gone. And this is how Language Lessons of the Heart was born, was by this incredible awareness and self-consciousness of meditation plus emotion release and connecting to how that whole thing's working. And then when I started doing the emotion release, then I started getting memory back of lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And that's where I am now.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's what we're here for. You know, what you just expressed when you were saying how, you know, you shared what you had heard me express about my wounds, and then you started sharing yours. And one of the things that came to me is that every experience that we have is not just for ourselves, but it's also to support others in the experiences that they're having. And so when you said, you know, this is why Patricia's so fanatical, and I had to catch myself because I started to laugh, because I was like, I realized, yeah, I am like the average person that, you know, might be blocking it out, might be going to a ball game or watching television or doing whatever they're doing. And I've been on this like quest my whole life. And it was really always about me and trying to know who I am and figure out why these things happen, why I'm so different, why I don't feel good about myself, why can't I see that I'm a pretty person or that I have something to offer to the world. You know, I went through all those same things that you're expressing. And in the same time, I realized that, and part of me doing that, that was also meant for me to support humanity in their process too, in their healing. And that's, to me, why this verbal communication and the frequencies, when we're coming from our heart and we're sharing these experiences, I feel like that's the most, when we talk about healing modalities, I feel like it's not, for me, it's not even a modality. It's just something that's a part of our isness that just starts to unfold and creates this just healing vibrational frequency.
Well, modality, yeah, and in a way, all healing is natural and organic, but the modality is to be thorough, eloquent, and precise about your healing. So if you don't, because you can do natural healing, but then remember, what happened to you was a result of living a natural life, and then what happened was it became a natural disaster, right? So you were living a natural life, and then it became a natural disaster. So there's a lot to be said for the polarity of discipline for freedom. Yeah. So if you have a certain amount of discipline, you can gain a lot more freedom. And if you don't have the discipline, then you get what you catch what catch can. So there's a lot to be said for modalities and life coaches and, you know, methods and approaches that if you follow them, then you know, like I said, you can be thorough, eloquent, and precise, which people don't talk about. People don't talk about healing as being thorough, eloquent, and precise about your healing. You know, they just don't talk about it. We still have the image of that healing is some kind of mysterious thing because it happened to us in a mysterious way, and we don't have a really good grasp of what it is that's actually going on. So I want everybody, would you like to have a little process that'll begin to move your healing forward? I can give you this process we can all do right now. And since your mics are muted, then I'll do it for you. Remember what I said is we have these 4 parts of self: spirit, heart, will, down here in our belly, and our whole body, those 4 parts. And so your emotional body is the deep feminine. It's also the inner child and the inner goddess. So it is your will that holds the pain. So if you have a bad self-image, you have a hard life, you have a broken heart and all this stuff, broken heart is in the heart, but it also is in the will. So, you know, my parents didn't love me and all this stuff, that's in the will. All the pain and suffering is held in the will, whether it's conscious or subconscious, you know, whether you can get to it or not. So it's the will. When you heal the deep feminine, then you heal everything, because that's the core of your being. That's the soul. That's your center, right? And everything goes from that. It's like where your sexuality is, your digestive is, your elimination is, and where your the heat, the life force is actually in your body. So I teach 4 things: an empowerment, judgment and denial release, emotion release, and talking to the parts of self. So I'm going to give you the empowerment right now. And the empowerment goes like this: I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. So everybody just repeat that. I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. And put your hand down here on your belly and just feel it, and say, I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. That's what you want to heal. That's the area you want to heal. I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal your will. So it's about frequency, okay? When we are children, we hear over and over again, thousands of times in our life, no, you can't, you shouldn't, you stop doing that. You're not allowed to. You know, children should be seen and not heard, or I'll beat the will out of you. You know, you're a willful child. Stop being so wild. Stop being, noisy. You're too noisy. It's all these messages over and over again. Was told to you so frequently that you get into that frequency that you carry that around with you. So what I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will is the opposite of what was told to you when you were a child. You don't think of it as the opposite because you don't even remember that you carried around all this bad programming or negative programming. And it doesn't have to always be verbal. A lot of times you can just get that look. The parents just give you that look, and you make up the there's something wrong. I can't do that. There's I'm not accepted. I'm not valued. I can't do what I want, right? So I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. So if you do that, and I recommend doing it 10,000 times, right? So what is that? If you did it 100 times a day, what would that be? I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. What would that be? 10 days would be 1,000. And 100 days would be what? 10,000. I think that's what it is. So that's 3 months. So if you did that, I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. If you did that 10,000 times, now that would be counterbalance the negativity that is stuck in your biofield. And so to this day, people have to hear, I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me in the subconscious, right? In the subconscious, there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough woman. I'm not a good enough man. I'm not a good enough lover. I'm not, whatever it is, you see? Or I'm a sinner in the eyes of God, or any of those kind of programs that you got as a child, is because you kept hearing that over and over and over again until it clicked. And you think that that's who I am, but that's not who you are. That's a lie. So by saying I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will, hundreds and hundreds of times, and then you say it back in time. Say it back into your childhood, back into a past life, right? Back into your wounds, back into what hurt you. Okay? So here's the thing. When you're a child and you start learning all this stuff is wounding to your will. All your will, you wish, you want to play, you want to be, you want to enjoy. That's the magical stuff of being a child, they're all will. So your will was denied. And now you're turning that around and saying, I want to heal my will. So the message you're giving to your will is you want to heal your will. I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Will you help me? I forgot to add, will you help me on there? Now, if you do this enough times, that I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will, what happens? What happens is we've been living our life as if the whole world was against us and everything is a manifestation of our wound. But when you start saying this I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. And you're conscious. You try to connect your mind to your will, right? Your spirit to your will, which is the man to the woman, right? You want the man to embrace the woman saying, I'm going to heal you. I'm going to be with you, right? So what happens? You say, I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Will you help me? And it changes to where everything in the world is now possible to heal you. Yeah, that's a shift you want. It's that one shift right there. So that instead of everything in the world being something that irritates you or triggers you or pokes you or confirms that you're not good enough or confirms that confirms your wounds, you can, when you say your empowerment, I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will, it shifts it around to where everything is now possible to heal. It's a healing event. And there's help. Instead of the society against you, you ask society to help you. If instead of the angels against you, or your spirit guides against you, or the ETs against you, or nature's against you, when you start asking for that help, will you help me? I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Will you help me? Then you're asking to receive from that, remember, I'm infinite, immortal, and what was never created. And the universe is absolute inclusivity and unconditional love. So when you say, will you help me? You want to include, you want to be inclusive in your healing. You want to have healing coming from every direction and every way. From gravity will heal you. The air will heal you. The sun will heal you. You see what I'm saying? And so, again, the mind doesn't get this because the mind's going to be all sophisticated. Well, it was the Anunnaki, or it was the mom, it was the dad, or it was the society did this, the government lied, right? All these things. But that doesn't get out to your biofield. That doesn't get out to where you live. So I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Now, when you say this, right now, when you say this, feel, what is your resistance? What would be your resistance to saying this? Resistance is the programs. I'm supposed to be a wound victim. I'm supposed to be the way that I am now. It's my job to be hurt. It's my job. My identity is my wounds, right? You see, we can't even, because we've been so programmed into our wounds that we can't even make an attempt to heal without resistance. How crazy is that?
That's very true, because when you're saying this, is the cause of all distortions is like the pain and the illusions that are presented in the matrix, the illusions that feel real. And so we've forgotten what's real, and we've forgotten that we're infinite creator beings. So when I think about that, I think about, what is the matrix's ultimate goal? Well, the ultimate goal of the matrix is to distract me from myself. So when I'm being distracted from myself, then my focus now is not on these inner wounds as a child, not on the fact that I'm an infinite creator being, but it's on politics, education, science, religion, race, gender, sexuality, anything that's programming you and dividing you and feeding off of your consciousness. Because we never lose our soul. Our soul is infinite, but we can have our consciousness somewhat kind of distorted, and the loss of the memory. So we really have to bring that conscious awareness back into reality, and that's where we start to connect to ourselves. And then we realize that when we're looking at all this stuff that's being put out in the media and through science and the medical system and education and politics and blah blah blah, all that's there as part of the storyline. It has nothing to do with who we are.
I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Now, you've been told about vibration and frequency. Raise your vibration and raise your frequency, raise your vibration. But that's done nothing. How do you do that? That's it's sort of like a dead end. Okay, because they take the word frequency and turn it into that vibrational up and down frequency, when in fact, The frequency, to change your frequency, is you change what's frequently said to yourself. When you change what's frequently said to yourself, you change your frequency, and then your frequency becomes your reality. So I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will, right? And here again, like I have 50 videos on the whole healing process. And your will, a lot of people call it the soul, right? And which is not a bad way of going, you know, or the inner goddess or the inner feminine. But they are inner goddess. Each one of these things represents on your highest self. Spirit represents the highest self of spirit. They are connected. And heart represents the heart of creation. They are connected. And your belly represents the will of everything, which is the mother of everything. And your body is connected to the father of manifestation, everything that has form. So by healing the will, you increase your intelligence and your connection to what is the reality. That's kind of a big deal. So let me explain a little bit about what will is. A little bit of philosophy, Arthur Schopenhauer talks about the world as idea and the world as will. Okay? And this goes into the whole of the universe. Now, we have like this microphone, this body, this house, this room. These are ideas. This is the idea of the room or the house or the air or the computer or the people, right? Those are ideas, right? And I'm talking to ideas. But what is that? What is that wall? Or what is this thing in itself? What is the actual essence of what it is will. The essence of who you are is will. In other words, the energy that holds the atoms together is will. That's what makes the atoms do what atoms do. And the will, wish, and want is what makes the molecules stay together. And the molecules become matter. Yeah? So the essence of who you are is will. The essence of the universe, the vacuum of space is all will. And it is electromagnetic. So the vacuum of space, of which everything comes out of that void, is will. And will is electromagnetic. That's who we are. Okay? So when you heal your will, you're healing like all the way back to the beginning of creation. And this is why you can, when you heal your will, right, which is magnetic, that's how you can get your power back. That's how you get your memory back. And that's how you get everything back, right? Because will is the essence of who you are. And it is emotional. It is your emotional body. Yeah. So it is more than soul. It is more than the God. It is more than goddess. It's more than, yeah, it's more than that. It is the mother of everything. Put it this way. It's like, you know, you have Shiva and Shakti. You have the God and the goddess. Well, we've been, still to this day, everybody talks about Shiva, 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 right? They have the meditation for Shiva, you know, they say all the Shiva stuff. But Shakti, which is the will polarity. This is Shiva, this is Shakti, yeah? Life force. Shakti is the mother of Shiva and the wife of Shiva. Okay? This is little polarity there. So this is what's going on inside of us. You want to reunite those two, right? When you do, the frequency of healing your emotional body is what brings your memories back, brings your power back, brings the balance inside you of, you know, instead of trouble and strife and discord inside there, it becomes harmony and, you know, stuff you want. And it all starts with I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. And the goal of that is to become, to have an immaculate intent to heal. And this is what happens with people who are deeply wounded, like Patricia and perhaps myself and a few others, is that when your desire to heal becomes immaculate, that it is not enough just to heal yourself. You are engaged in the community. You're engaged in reality. You're engaged with the whole of humanity, the whole of Mother Earth. You want to heal all that. Yeah? It's not enough just to heal yourself, because yourself is completely connected. Everybody's completely connected. So when I heal myself, then you can feel that vibration. You can feel it. You can feel that freedom. You can feel that ease where the dis-ease is gone. I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Say it, 10,000 times if you have to, because it was no and stop and you're not good enough and quit doing that and behave you're told that 56,000 times growing up. That was a frequency. So in a way, we're not healing, we're housekeeping. But that doesn't mean that the pain's not real. The pain is absolutely fucking real. It is absolutely real. Pain is real as a heart attack. Pain will kill you. Your suppressed and denied pain will kill you. It'll make you sick. It'll make you have cancer. It'll make you have every kind of disease there is, because if it's in your biofield, it gets into your body. Yeah? And body can only handle so much, and it just gives up. Says, I can't deal with this. I'm gonna check out. Yeah. So, any questions so far as to what we're headed with this?
Yeah, if there's anyone that would like to share or ask Michael a question, if you just want to unmute your microphone, that'd be great, because like this is for group discussion and everyone's welcome to participate on any level that they feel comfortable doing so.
I have a question. Was it recommended that we say this, I am infinite, and is it mortal?
Immortal.
Immortal. And then what was the last part? I want to make sure I have this right.
I'm infinite, immortal, and what was never created. That means you have no beginning and you will have no end.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody feel for sharing their deepest wound? That's always because see, when we feel no and we feel judged, we feel ashamed, and then we're ashamed to tell our deepest wound. So then we carry that inside us, like I can't tell everybody how bad it was, or how, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of guilt and shame and blame and sorrow and grief because we're carrying around this debt of shame and a guilt for so long.
I'm willing to share mine with the group if they would like to hear it. I don't speak of it very often. Mine in this earlier life was from my father, but that one I feel like I'm really resolved at that one before what happened. The biggest wound I'm carrying still, that I'm working on releasing, is the one that I did to myself through addiction. And just numbing myself for so long that I actually did die. And when I came back to my being,
you did die?
Yeah, when I came back into my body, it was very dark and very scary, and I was like, and it was like I wasn't. It was really profound because it was like I abruptly was in my body, and this whole like wave of, you just did this to yourself, and it scared me very much. And so that's why I'm here, actually, is because I realized it was like there's that responsibility for myself now. It's a very, very profound responsibility I have for myself, and that I want to fix myself so I can be better. I don't want to be a waste of life. I want to be life. I want to experience life. Before that happened, I didn't want to be alive. I didn't have any real purpose or like anything. I was just like dead when I look back. And now I want to live like so much. Like, it's not easy, but I don't care. I really just love life. And so I'm like 100% in this. Ever since that experience, which was, there's a lot to it, it's changed me. It's caused me to start searching for things that I never even knew about but I know stuff, which is very weird. Like I have the creation thing too, where I see there was no beginning and end, and the messages I get are very profound. And I know now, because I have people like you guys, that I'm not crazy, but I felt like I was gonna go crazy at first, you know. But this, just having these, you guys, oh my gosh, it's changed my life. It's given me a sense of ease and comfort, and I'm forever grateful for that.
That's amazing. You had a near-death experience.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I wanted to talk about that because that's really profound. You talk about a change of frequency. A near-death experience would do it to you. So what do we have here? There's a possibility of changing yourself when you have a near-death experience. When you have ayahuasca or a psychedelic experience, that changes that like changes your whole worldview. And then also when you have deep meditation, like I said, I reached this place where I could see light and, you know, had this kind of illumination thing going on, meditation for years and years. And that, yeah. And then there's a near-death experience, the drug experience, and a meditation experience. And then there's shamanic experience and all this past life experience, all these kind of things. Let me say something about that, because remember, we're infinite, immortal, and what was never created, right? Okay, now, so what goes from one lifetime to another? Yeah, what's in this lifetime that's going to go into the next lifetime? Yeah, enlightenment doesn't touch what's going to go from the last lifetime to this lifetime, and from this lifetime to the next lifetime. So if you're a wounded person, most people who become enlightened, listen to this, most people who become enlightened is because of their wounds. Yeah. Buddha was terribly wounded. He saw that his life was fake, and he went on this whole quest to try to find out what's going on because of the wounds that he had of being a pampered prince. Okay, so if you have a near-death experience, you open up and you have these vistas of possibilities and love and all this kind of stuff, and then you come back and it's like, well, okay, I still have my mom and pop issues, I still have my relationship issues, I still have my you know, survival issues, my fear issues, my guilt and shame issues, whatever the issues may be. If you're enlightened, doesn't make you a good person, doesn't make you even a nice person. Okay, so the issues that we have, emotional issues that we have with our will, and the conflict between thoughts and feelings, right, isn't touched by enlightenment, by ayahuasca, by psychedelics, or by a near-death experience, or by people who have gone off world into a craft many times. There's a lot of people going through that now, or any of those kind of things, or meeting an enlightened man and being in bliss and all this kind of stuff. So this is kind of a profound understanding. It's like we've had people who have had near-death experience and people who've been enlightened for a long time. There's been millions and millions of people who've been enlightened on this planet, but the planet itself, human beings themselves, haven't really changed much. So there's normal people, and then there's these enlightened people, and the enlightened people seem to be doing okay, but if you're not enlightened, then you're screwed. You see what I'm saying? So you do your internal housekeeping, and what you want to change is what you came in with and what you're going to go out with. Okay, and so to release the judgments and denials and release your emotional pressures, that balances everything out. That's actually what cleans your house. So in order to do that, you have to have a certain amount of momentum going, instead of self-sabotage and self-wounding, to, you know, self-healing and self-care and self-love. It's amazing. Sometimes it takes a near-death experience to awaken to self-love, or you have to be so wounded and crippled and crushed that the only possible way that you could possibly survive is to find some shred of self-love, and then you hold on to that self-love, and then you know, you start healing. Yeah. So Thank you so much for sharing that. You know.
Yeah, thank you, Melanie, for sharing. And would anyone else like to share? I just want to say this. Okay, Carol, you can go. I just want to say this. For me, one of the most healing things has been for me to share, because I was so ashamed of the way that I was raised. I felt so guilty. If someone said, "Hi, my name is Sam, and nice to meet you," and I would say, "Hi, I'm Patricia, nice to meet you," they'd start to tell me about themselves. And if I had to tell them about myself, I didn't even know how to start, because I was like, oh boy, what can I tell them about me that would make sense? And so I was always carrying this just it even affected me with relationships, because if there was someone that was what was handsome and wealthy and had so much potential and whatever, and he wanted to be with me, I couldn't understand that at all. And if he wanted me to go meet his family, that would make it even worse, because I'm thinking, I'm going to go there and they're going to ask, who are you? And I'm going to be like, well, and I just didn't know where to go. And what I started to realize is when I accepted my life, and when I was able to tell everyone who I am, that there was no one that could embarrass me or shame me or anything, because I was taking all that away. I was empowering myself by acknowledging who I am. And that started to make all the shame and embarrassment go away. And then I could be like, yeah, you know what? This is my life. These are my experiences. That's not who I am. These are my experiences. And then I started realizing what a gift all of these experiences were. And the way that it has opened me up to be able to be more compassionate and empathetic. And it's a lot of pain and a lot of struggle, and you've got to do a lot of work to get to this point, but it's the most liberating thing that I've ever experienced. I'll be quiet. Carol?
Well, when I was 16, my first boyfriend died of a car accident. And I carried a lot for many, many years. I just suppressed that. And when I started doing the healing in the past few years, it was like a bottomless pit. It was a trigger to something else that was bigger, and I could never get to the bottom of it. And when I started going back to death and how that had affected me, I realized that when I was born, I came into this world through my mother, who was grieving the loss of a 2-year-old child. And that is where, and just recently I've really been connecting to everything. Sorry. And that is where I think all of that trauma really came from. Because if I stopped and looked at myself as a child, going into a teenager, there was a lot of resentment, a lot of bitterness, yet a lot of guilt and shame, a lot of submissiveness, and a lot of people pleasing. And on top of it, I was empathic. I could, instead of disturbing my parents to want something or need something, I would really connect to them and really feel what was going on within them. And that was the way that I would just kind of back away and say, well, look, they're going through whatever too much right now, so I won't even step in and say anything. So, everybody says you were such a good child, but deep inside of me, there was a lot more tormenting going on than they ever realized. So that was my trauma, and I was really the initial one coming in. And I started connecting to times before, other lifetimes as well. But it's just like broken pieces. There's just, I'll get bits of information, and then all of a sudden, whoops, the rest is hidden from me. I guess it's myself that's not ready to see all of it at the same time. So that's pretty much the way, I've been going, and I've been working on myself. It's not difficult for me to connect to someone else energetically and help them. As Patricia knows me. But to connect to myself and heal those things that are deep like that, it's more difficult.
Thank you. You brought up a couple of really good points. One is we're totally enmeshed with our parents. They call it in quantum physics entanglement. We feel we get what they get, we deny what they deny. What they say to us, as children becomes what we say to ourselves as adults. I never met an empathic person who wasn't wounded. Empath, in a way, is a symptom of being wounded. It is what it means in some way. Okay, what it means is something happened at some point in your life, probably not this life, but at some point, something so tragic happened that it puts your soul and your intuition on hyper alert because it was life or death, right? So that hyper alertness goes from lifetime to lifetime, and then, of course, your patterns repeat, the frequency repeats. So you come into this lifetime and your mom has issues and your antennas are all up, and you see? So, but the normal person are fairly gated. I don't feel 100%. I'm kind of gated to whether I feel compassion or not, or will I feel devastated, or will I feel bad vibes. We're supposed to be gated, but it's sort of like people who are codependent. You know what I mean? In a way, being empath is a little bit like being codependent. It's like it's which is a little bit out of balance. Like you need to be able to live your life unhampered by the other. You need to have healthy boundaries. It's like the people who are meshed and codependent, they don't have healthy boundaries, right? So on a psychic level, we need to have healthy boundaries because there's a lot of strange energy out there that we just don't even need to pay attention to. But on the path to them, they're in the core of their being. It's like a life or death. Is this narcissist going to get me, or is this off something? But it's also good too, because there's love out there and you can empath that, and there's love for dogs and animals and trees and nature. So there's a good side of it too. And I've never really met an empath yet and for that matter, almost every healer I've ever met became a healer because they needed to heal themselves, including me. In a way, this session is for my healing, and my language lessons of the art was for my healing. And because I'm still learning and evolving and healing stuff every day when I go on the internet or when I talk to people and feel people. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Will you help me? That's a frequency. Say it frequently, and you're going to get into that frequency. And when you get into that frequency, it goes from being wounded to being healthy. Fantastic things that happen when you say, I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Will you help me? If you ever remember being sick, like getting the flu, right? Now, the flu, it's like, oh, if you get really bad flu, it's like, oh God, I'm gonna die. That's terrible. I'm sick. And you're laying down, you're drinking things, and you're doing stuff, and you feel like you're gonna die, right? But then, whatever it is, 2 or 3 days in, something happens, right? And you don't feel quite so much like you're gonna die, right? In that one instant, there's an instant right there where you go from being sick and getting sicker and sicker and sicker to you're no longer getting sicker and sicker and sicker. You begin in that one instant to get better and better and better and better. Yes. So it's not when 2 days later when you get up and go back to work, that's not when you're all better. The instant that you're healing, the instant that you become healed is that one moment when you stop going towards death and you start going towards life. Now, when you say, I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will, it becomes that healing instant. Somewhere in that saying it 10,000 times, you will shift your whole energy away from continually being wounded, continuing your patterns, continuing your, the stuff that happened in the past. You'll stop believing in that. You'll stop putting energy in that. And even though it might take you years, 6 months, 2 years to get better again so you can function normally, there's an instant, and that's what that empowerment does. I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. And it was funny because Melanie talked about, I want to live. I have 3 empowerments. One is I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Will you help me? The second one is, I want to be fulfilled. Will you help me? And the third empowerment, so that if you get bored of the other 2, is I want to live. Will you help me? That's a very powerful, you know what I mean? Because this conditioned matrix that we've created for ourselves is not really living, because every judgment, every limit, every denial denies what you can do, what you can feel, what you can feel, what you can, where you can go with your head, what you can imagine, what you can hope, what you can dream. All these things are denied you. So it's not really living to the full extent of who you are. So I want to be fulfilled. That's a powerful, you know, will you help me? Yeah. You want the whole universe to help you heal. You want all of nature. You want your past to become a healing event instead of a wounding event. Yeah. Whenever you list or tell the story of what happened to you in the past, that story is full of judgments. My mom did this. Something was down with my dad. My dad was an alcoholic. I didn't get enough love. We were poor, or I was judged. I was bullied, right? And then you build that frequency, and that becomes your identity. And then you carry those identity boxes around on your shoulders for the rest of your life. And none of that stuff is true. One of the reasons why it's not true is because
You're infinite.
And what was created.
Yeah.
So all that stuff is just show business.
Right. Patrick, I think you want to share something, don't you? I've seen you unmute a couple of times. I think Patrick would like to share. If that's okay to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I really, it's not so much as share as I had a couple questions, if that's okay. I wasn't quite clear, Michael, when you say, I want to be fulfilled, will you help me? I want to empower myself, or I am empowering myself with strong and loving intent to heal my will. Will you help me? What's the, I'm not quite clear on that. Will you help me? Who's that directed to? Or what?
Okay, that's a great question.
Okay.
We're told by society that be yourself, right? Be yourself. Who are you? Find out who you are. Be yourself, right? And the whole kind of subtext to that is that you're this one thing. You're just this one being. Yeah. So you're one being. I am me. I am that I am. You hear that like, I am that I am. I'm like this, I'm that, right? That's my identity. And or you say, you know, when you meet somebody, yeah, I'm a cook, or I'm a father, or I'm a, you know, engineer, whatever. You just define who you are as this one being. And this is my history, and this is my family, and this is my country. So you define as who you are. So, but being one being is to be monophrenic, right? That means one being inside yourself, one psyche. But psychism will make you crazy, and it'll make you split to being yourself and something else, so then you become schizophrenic, right? You become schizophrenic. There's me, who is the fake, right? The fake, what society wants to be, and then there's the inner me, the real me. So then there's this skits there between who I'm supposed to be and who I really feel that I am, right? So there's a schizophrenic there. But in reality, I just told you who we are is spirit, heart, will, and body, right? That's 4, okay? That's 4 psyches, 4 faces of who we are, yeah? So one of the things you say with will you help me is this whole inner family is in discord. Nobody's talking to anybody. You know, you don't ever think about your heart. You don't feel your body. Everything's just sort of like this unity of chaos, right? but in fact, you're 4 centers of consciousness. And I'll give you an example. Right now, I'm talking out of my head, right? Now, if I pick up a little kitty, what happens? Hi, kitty, I love you, kitty, you're so sweet, right? You hear that? My voice changed. And why did my voice change? Because I'm not in my head, I'm in my heart for feeling, or the puppy or the child or the lover, right? Your voice changes completely, yeah? So your head can go one way and your heart can go another way. That's natural. Okay, then you go down into your emotional body, right? And then that means you can be angry or sad or grieving or joyful, right? So, you know, it's like something makes you angry, right? So here I am in my normal voice, and something triggers me, and I go, you know, blah, 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 right? That's your emotional body taking over. Or it goes, oh, I'm so, you know, it hurt. You see, that's your emotional body taking over. I'm talking to my normal voice now, but when my emotional body takes over, that's a completely different personality. Your body, okay? Here I am talking right now, but what happens when you're tired? What happens when you're really, really tired or you can't go anymore? What does your voice do? It goes, tired. I can't, I gotta go. Or hungry. I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm so hungry, I can't even think, I'm so hungry. You see, you're saying your voice changes. We have these 4 voices inside of us. And so we're really polyphrenic. We're not monophrenic, we're polyphrenic. Yeah? Now, we're infinite and immortal, and what was never created. And so is everything else. Yeah? So everything is polyphrenic. And there is, if you go into unity consciousness, anybody ever heard of the all one, unity consciousness? What does that mean?
Well, for me, I see, to me, when someone says oneness, I think there's multiple ways to perceive that. For me, I still feel like an individual, infinite creator being beyond creation. At the same time, I feel like unity for me is the natural state of isness, the harmonic resonance of everyone being in unified harmony and coexisting on the real level, not with any kind of illusionary programming. But I don't have like that. For me, I don't see the hive, like we're all one and there's nothing beyond that one being that's branched out everywhere. That's just the way that I've experienced myself. So that's how, if you ask me, that's how I see it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's what most people think. Anybody else have any ideas of like the all one? We're all one. Okay, well, what that means is inside of me, through my spirit, heart, will, and body, I am connected to you. I'm connected to the tree. I'm connected to the stars. I'm connected to the earth. I'm connected to the animals. I'm connected to every human being. I'm connected back and okay. And what that means is I can be inside you and outside of you. I can feel you or not feel you. What that means is the direction we're going. So right now I'm saying we're shifting away from monophrenic, just me, only me, there's the world and me, and it's me against the world, right? To being polyphrenic, which is having these 4 centers, and you're working as a team, right? One part of you takes the responsibility for healing the other part of you. And one part of you takes responsibility for making sure you don't get wounded in your heart or whatever. You see what I'm saying? So it's a teamwork kind of a thing. So that's to be polyphrenic. But the all one is to become omniphrenic. The way we're going is to be omniphrenic. So when you say, will you help me? That's an omniphrenic kind of a thing. You know, because maybe you'll touch a tree one day and it's like that tree will just like open you up. You know, Christ meditated under a tree and he, you know, became immortal, and Buddha meditated under a tree. You see what I'm saying? Or the air, you know, the air is made out of light. And if you breathe enough air, your whole being gets filled with light. But you never thought of that one. The air is one of the highest beings that there are. But you could, will you help me? You see what I'm saying? So when you go to will you help me, that's moving from monophrenic to polyphrenic to omniphrenic. Okay? And that's what you want. So you want your heart, will you help me? Yeah. Your will you help me? Your body, will you help me? It means to be congruent. You don't want your heart, your head going one way, your heart going another. Like think about it like when your kid going to school or something, or and they say, okay, you got to go to school, and your whole body is going like, man, I want to stay in bed, and your heart is like in your emotional body going, man, I hate school. I hate school like a passion. You know what I'm saying? So, but then you say, I have to go to school. So your brain, your spirit, right, drags you off to school, makes you dress because you don't want to get ashamed and sticked or beaten or whatever they're going to do to you, right? So that means you're incongruent. So your heart and your heart, your spirit, your heart, your will and body are not in alignment. But when you get them in alignment, your head, your heart, your will, and your body, you got like all the cylinders going in the same direction. No conflict, no resistance. Everybody's on the team. Okay, let's do this. You know what I'm saying? To be congruent. And if you're congruent, you become authentic. That means you saying and doing what you're feeling. It sounds simple, but in reality, very few people are actually congruent. They don't say what they mean, they don't feel what they're saying, and they don't do what they feel. So they're incongruent, and you can feel it. So there's a fakeness. There's a fakeness in this monophrenia where only the king of the hill up here is the dictator to the heart, the will, and the body. And it is this dictator, the spirit as the dictator of the heart, the will, and the body, is how government and the matrix and everything is run. It's exactly the same. I don't know if that answered your question, but when you say, will you help me? This is a transcendent. It's a transcendent. It's an imaginary. It is like reaching out to the unseen, into the future. It is, God would help you, or the angels would help you, or the ETs would help you, or the animals will help you, or the air will help you, or the nature spirits will help you, or your family will help you, or some stranger will help you, or a master will help you. See, that opens that door up, right? So you're not alone. That's the thing about being infinite, immortal, and what was never created, because you're not alone anymore. It's not you against the world. It is the world supporting you. All of creation supported you, because that's who you are in the end.
Thank you. That's a great answer. Fantastic. Appreciate it. I did have one other question to ask. You might have already answered this, but I'll ask it again because it just came up for me today. Again, if a person cannot detect a major wounding, in other words, they can't just pinpoint one particular thing in their life, they know it's off. Usually by feeling pain. And can a person instead tap into the pain that they're experiencing without ever needing to know the story of that? Does that make any sense? With it, because sometimes what I mean is I'll get in so much pain if I just allow myself to feel it, and it's usually physical pain. But if it's emotional, if I just allow myself to feel it, I'll begin to emote and go into feeling what that feels like. But as soon as I try and tie it down mentally, I lose it, and then I get disconnected.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a really wonderful, pertinent question. So there's the feelings, and then there's the ideas. Okay? And the feelings oftentimes seem like they're miles away from the ideas. So if you try to intellectualize or conceptualize or try to get into advance of the feelings, like why is this happening, and all, you just let the feeling be and vibrate it out. Whatever it is, whatever that frequency is, when you let it out, when you, in a way, you surrender to it, you are Shiva that steps down off of his holy, whatever you call it, cloud, and he prostrates before the feeling and allows the feeling, let's say in the Shiva and Kali, you allow the anger, say for example, or the pain to come up, and allow that to take over. Remember, your head has the burden of being monophrenic. And as soon as you learn how to like not be in control with your head and allow your heart and your will or your body to express fully, then you become your will, or you become your body, or you become your heart, and you allow that to express. Yeah. Now, every pain that happens to you is based on a lie that you tell yourself. It is a separation away from your truth. So it is a lie you tell yourself. I'm not good enough is a lie. And if it was that done at a certain amount when you're a kid, then when some situation happens in this world and it triggers that I'm not good enough, and you go into the sadness or the grief or the fear or the contraction, yeah, of that thing. So whatever the feeling is, it never comes up alone. It comes up with a movie of dad said this, mom said that, the ex-wife or the ex-husband did this. Yeah, it comes up, and then they said this. I don't, like my father said to my mother, if this child is not a boy, I'm going to leave you. Yeah. And so she had that going in her head over and over and over again. This basically drove her crazy because of the words that were spoken. So, and she didn't express her feelings. She just internalized them. Yeah. So here's the thing. There's judgments and denials, and then there's the emotion. Okay. All emotions come from spirit to will. What you think affects your emotions. Thought and feeling is the man and woman. The natural man and the natural woman is thought and feelings working together. But when thought opposes the feelings, I'm not good enough. Thought opposes the will. You're not good enough. You're not wanted. You're not worthy. This is you thinking this about your own self. And then the will is in a state of panic, like my mother, and doesn't know what to do, and it just feels grief or ashamed or terrified or doesn't know what to do, or it's in hyper alert and has to, you see what I'm saying? So thoughts that are not connected through the heart, thoughts not connected to the heart that hit the will is what causes suffering, which is what causes pain. So when you go into your pain primally, just pure pain primally, that's like the snake bite. That's the poison. But the snake is the words. The words. You're not worthy. You were adopted. You were, you're not wanted, or you were not good enough, or you weren't allowed love, or you were never heard, or the love that you were given never touched you. You see what I'm saying? Those are the words, are the snake, and the emotions are the snake bite. Ow. Oh, right? So you need both. Because if you just without getting intellectual about it and just move the emotion, you can do that. There's people who get addicted to that. They feel so good after they move their emotions that they're either they cry every day, or other people become rageaholics, or other people become anxiety attack. They have this anxiety, and then the panic attacks, and then then they're okay for a couple of days. Then they have another panic attack, and it's crippling panic attack. So they're just having the emotions. They're not seeing the snake. They're having the bite. They have the effect of the snake bite. The poison of the snake bite gets them. They don't see that it's the snake that keeps biting them in the same place. So if you get rid of if you move the emotions, you find the snake. You move the feelings, and you'll find your judgments and denials. Now, if you release your feelings, then you release your judgments and denials. And if you do that properly and balanced, it's gone, right? Because if you have the snake always there willing to bite you in the right situation, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, love is, God hates me, or here's a good one, it's my job to serve, and it's my job to suffer for others. A lot of people have that one. I got to suffer for my family. I take on the suffering of my family. That's a snake. that bites you, and then you're 40, 50 years old. You're going, well, my life sucks. My kids are gone, and I'm still not. I've lived for somebody else. I don't even have a self. Anyway, it's a two-part deal: emotions and the words. You release the emotions, and then you find the words, and you release the words, which is I have a formal judgment release and denial release. So that's okay. I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's all about healing the emotions. And okay, back to the biofield.
Well, can I say one thing real quick before you move on? Because I think this is really important. I mentioned this before we actually started recording. When someone says, because I think for those of us that have really experienced wounding, I do have memories from other lifetimes as well, but I focus when I'm talking to people in general, usually on this one, just to relate to where people are today, for people that haven't really tapped into those past memories. But the reality is we all come with wounds, and some of us are just addressing those and some are not. But a lot of times you will hear someone say, and I've been this way myself, well, I want to feel, but I can't. I'm just numb. I don't feel anything. And for me, when I hear that, I'm saying, is that true? Do you really not feel, or are you choosing not to feel? Are you in denial? Are you afraid? What? Because there are feelings that you're having on a daily basis, but there's certain feelings I'm thinking you're at that point you're trying to avoid. So the solution or the answer is, I'm numb, I don't feel.
Yeah. Well, being numb and not feeling is the huge problem. Listen, the reason why we don't all have our memory back that goes all the way back to the beginning of time, the reason we don't have that is because there's pain back there. Now, when there was pain back there, right, it could have been from the Spanish Inquisition or a war or a rape or whatever was going on back there. It was miserable, and so you deny it, right? So I don't want to feel that, and then you die and you come back and you still don't want to deny. You still don't want to feel that. That was too much. So that can go on for lifetime after lifetime. But here's the thing about denial. When children do it, right? So they get upset, they cry, and then or they get really hurt. Maybe the mom and dad are divorced. They compartmentalize, and they put all that pain or that wonder that they can't deal with it emotionally. They're not sophisticated, so they compartmentalize, which we call denial. They deny it, they suppress it because they can't deal with it in this lifetime, at their current age, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10. They can't deal with it, so they deny it. Right? Now, here's the thing about denial: is you cannot deny only your pain. What you deny goes right across the board. Life is vibration. So when you deny one part of your vibration, you deny it all the way across the line. And things like past life, things like personal power, magic, and things like remembering past lifetimes, that's subtle, right? And it doesn't get past the denial of the pain in the past. So whenever you connect with the pain in the past, that opens up the vibrational frequency for you to remember, or to get your power back, or to correct, imbalances that happened back then, which is what karma actually is. Karma is nothing more than denied pain in the past of a certain pattern that got carried over into the now. Like I showed you, the pain that I had of losing my whole family and being rejected by the Indians, right, became losing my whole family from the time I was born, and being rejected by my father, being rejected by my mother, and then from then on, everything in my life was picture perfect, except I wasn't there. I was completely shut down. I was like Mr. Invisible. I didn't even learn how to talk until I was 21 years old. What I gave was, yep, no, okay. That's all I got till I was 20. I didn't even actually carry on a conversation with another human being till I was 21, because I was shut down. This is how it works. Yeah. Okay, you want to talk about some cosmic stuff and where this all plays into that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Remember when I said that the will is the vacuum of space? So all of creation is fitting inside the will. And what the will is, what the universe is absolute inclusivity and unconditional love. So the way stars are formed is will is magnetic. So up here, your thoughts are electric. Thoughts are electric, and your will down here is magnetic. Electric, magnetic. Yeah? Man, woman. In space, there's a magnetic field. And the magnetic field is in the vastness of space. It's in between stars, is magnetic. Okay, so it's also, it is a kind of consciousness of the will. And the will is the feminine, right? So there's the will that wishes and wants, right? And in the will, there's like a desire. I want, right? So I want to create. I want another. I want a baby. I want to be communicated with. I want to talk. I want to relate, right? But also in the will to be inclusive is, you know, you don't want to do that. You don't want to create anything. You don't want to be a baby. You don't want to do this. You don't want to create anything. So there's like contradictory, right? There's self-hatred in there. There's self-love in there. There's wanting a loving creation and wanting to destroy creation. So there's all these frequencies that are going on in this magnetic field. Okay, so in that magnetic field, when you have two magnetic fields that are opposing, right, you generate electricity. You know, when you make electricity, is two magnets with a spinning thing in the middle. That's how you make electricity, and that's how you make electricity in space. So you have this gigantic, on a scale, let's say you have a desire for the other, a feminine desire for the man. You want the perfect man. You want the man. You want the man of your dreams. You want the natural man. You want to be the natural woman for the natural man. But you also have all this other stuff like, I'm not worth it. You're not worth it. It's not the right thing to do. It's like, what? You're too young. You're too this. What? All these contradictory desires are also in the vacuum of space. But anyway, it's this huge, gigantic desire. But what it starts to make an electric current, and that electric current makes what's called dark plasma. There's 4 states of plasma. Let me see this. I think there's arc mode, glow mode, three layers, three states of plasma. Arc mode, like an arc welder, glow mode, which is like a candle, and the sun is in glow mode, and then dark mode. That's before it glows. It's electromagnet. So what happens is this desire, which is magnetic, to be, to know, to feel, to experience for the other, it increases in amplitude of the electric current that's holding in the middle, okay? So then when it gets constricted enough, the current becomes higher in amplitude, and when it comes higher in amplitude, it goes from dark mode to glow mode, and that's how stars are formed. Now, when a star is formed, right, it is like this. It's like when the light bulb comes on. It's like when the fluorescent light turns on. Right, this whole expansion happens. Now, emotionally, this is the man and woman. The electric and the magnetic is the man and the woman. And in this dynamics is all the dynamics of everything that we experience between a man and a woman here on Earth, and between government and man and all this kind of stuff. It is in that dynamics of the creation of a star, which is also the creation of galaxies and life and all that kind of stuff. It is the desire against what is manifested, which is the electric light, which is the sun, which is the star that's formed. Okay, so in this formation of the star, remember that the universe is absolute inclusivity and unconditional love. So the whole idea is for this to be done in love. But that's not all that there is, because it's inclusive. There's also denied love, and there's also rage and hatred and all this other kind of stuff, self-hatred, self-denial, and all this kind of stuff. So coming away from absolute inclusivity into reality is to separate away from that and become conditional. Now there's a separation. This is where polarity comes in. It is from nothing to something is the first step in frequency. The first step is from the magnetic field, just being it by himself, to the electric current flowing, and the second one is when it becomes that. So all violence towards women, all rape and murder and hatred towards women and towards Black people are in the vibrational frequency of this light that expands out and penetrates into the darkness, which is the mother, right? And basically wounds her. So even though it's 96% love, there is in that frequency rape, murder, death, abuse, war, suffering, poverty, torture, evil is in there. That's what they call Lucifer, the first light. The first light was penetrated the mother's energy so powerfully that it hit her heart and blew out heart. So that's why we have a big issue on earth with heart. So what I'm saying is, we were talking about the man and the woman, the thought and the feelings. All this stuff is going inside of us, right? It is not the darkness that is evil. It is light with no intent to heal that is evil. It's light with no love in it that is evil. Yeah. And so when we do our little part to heal our little emotions and our family and whatever, you know, that actually heals when we heal ourselves, we heal our family. And when we heal our family, we help heal the world. And we also help heal what was in discord from the very beginning of creation. So this stuff is built into so, you know, we can point fingers all we want, which is okay, but it's still the man and the woman, you know, the thought and the feeling, the electric and the magnetic. It's those things not either balanced in the heart or not in the heart, either overriding the heart with hurtful intent or not. So I don't know if that went over your head or not, but the issues you have with the mom and pop stuff goes all the way back to the first creation, to the beginning of creation.
Well, I feel it was really helpful. I feel like it's like saying you have the natural man and you have the natural woman, then you have the distorted version of the woman and the distorted version of the man, and then you also have the duality that exists in a universe that's a construct of light.
Yeah.
So where you have the good, you're going to have the bad, and to me that kind of cancels it out when it comes to what truth is that it's not that there's necessarily good or bad or, you know, good or evil. It's just the duality that exists in this construct that is the way that we verbalize what we're experiencing and what we're feeling. Am I making sense?
Yeah, and people like you and me and a lot of other people, what we've actually done is we've accumulated the pain that is intrinsic in the universe, which is intrinsic in society, is intrinsic in nature. We've accumulated that into ourselves, and we're transmuting that, because you can't, you know, create or destroy energy, but you can transmute it, you can transform it. So in a roundabout kind of bizarre way, we are the white blood cells of the universe. You know, what we can heal and clean and cleanse in our vibrational frequency in our biofield is the exact same frequency of disharmony that goes all the way out into space. You know, the ET people, you look at those people like they're some kind of special or something, but every single one of them, they're either in a war now or they've been at war for a long time. So it's like, I mean, you talk about hundreds of species. Whenever you start hearing about people who've really connected to the ET people, there's always war. There's always stuff that they've had to transcend. And the ones who are helping us are the ones who have transcended and resolved and healed their issues on the emotional level. And they've balanced out all the disharmony, which is what thoughts not connected to feelings that creates pain is all about. In this dynamics is all the stuff that we create the matrix out of. The matrix is created from us. If you want to take a sobering look at things, if you look at the government, how it lies, well, our spirit lies to us. When we talk about our bad self-image and our place in the world, that's a lie. Remember, we're infinite, immortal, and what was never created. That's the truth. And that the universe is absolute inclusivity and unconditional love. So when you have, you know, exclusive, you know, I'm this and I'm that, and nature's this and that, and you have all these kind of labels and beliefs and stuff, that's exclusivity, which is less than unconditional love. So it all sounds kind of complicated, but in reality, it's very, very, very simple stuff.
I mean, I think it's really important what you just said about how we're creating the matrix, because there's a lot of anger and hatred that we have, you know, in general towards the matrix, towards the programming, and, you know, we haven't taken responsibility. Again, to me, it's like always owning it and acknowledging what we've co-created here, because it's like we're battling ourselves. So when I set all of my focus outside of me, because look, anything that's going on outside of me, I can't heal that. I can only heal what's within, and when I heal with what's within, then that's contributing to the healing process of the whole. So I feel like, you know, we've got to, for us that are saying, hey, I really want to move through this, we've got to stop looking at all the programming that's being put out there, and we've got to stop fighting it and start just focusing on what, you know, who we are and what we want to continue to create, what we want to emanate out into this reality, and live in our natural, organic, pure will, like what you're expressing. So I feel like that plays a huge role in it. Why are we fighting the matrix? Why aren't we just focusing on what's in here that is creating that?
Yeah, if you can stop the pain of your will, stop the cause of the pain, and release the pain of your will, you're in pretty good shape. You're back into factory specs, and that's where your heart is connected to the heart of creation. Your spirit is connected to the Father of creation of everything. Your will is the mother of everything. You see what I'm saying? That once you get rid of the pain, which is also getting rid of all the judgments, all the belief, and all the denial, which sounds like a lot, but really there are only certain many categories. Even if there was like 500 of them, these frequencies, that's not that many. I mean, you've been carrying around stuff for 30, 40, 50 years. It's not that much to actually go through and really sift through and clean out your whole biofield, clean out your past, clean out your karma. It's called karma is what it is, which is also your Akashic records. When you start clearing out your Akashic records, guess what? Your memory comes back. Yeah. So it's all love. It's really about love. The bottom line is it's about love, you know. If you don't heal yourself, it's because there's something that doesn't love you. It's something not allowed. It's a self-sabotage. It's a self-disregard. It's a self-unimportance. It's a self, diminishment. Yeah. Mm. And that really needs to be worked on, you know, because if you come from absolute inclusivity and unconditional love, and we're not experiencing that, there's a huge gap. There's a huge gap between not experiencing absolute inclusivity and unconditional love to what we have is the most conditional, the most unloving, the most fragmented. Yeah, that gap is the amount of love that you've lost. Mm-hmm. The amount of love, that amount of connections that you can't reach, the power of truth that you can't feel. And that's a huge deal. When we're walking around like zombies and numb, like the word numb was used. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a numbness because the pain, if you had to feel all that at one shot, it would be too much. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And also in healing this, the wedge between the masculine and the feminine, you know, women have felt suppressed and like they haven't had a voice, and we've, you know, kind of been made to feel like we have to exude more of a masculine energy, and men feel like they've kind of had their testicles cut off and they have to exert more of a feminine energy. And you've got the patriarchy system and the matriarchy system, and you've just got all these conflicts going on. And really what we all want, we want to be in harmony. We want to be complementary to one another. We want to be in support with the masculine and the feminine, but we're so hurt that we've lost trust. We're afraid of vulnerability. We're afraid of intimacy. So if someone says, hey, be sexual, we've become over sexualized. So let's be sexual. Okay, well, we've been taught that. We've been trained how to do that. It's like, you throw a dog a ball and he goes and gets the ball and he brings it back and he's made his owner happy. That's kind of what sex has become for a lot of women. Like, well, this is what I have to do to get a man, and I have to wear a certain type of clothing. I have to behave a certain type of way. And so then they lose sight of what intimacy is. They don't know how to be vulnerable or trusting. And I think it throws, men out of whack too, because then they're not really getting the nurturing side of women that they have to offer when we fall into that role either. So we're kind of, just tormenting each other and hurting each other, wounding each other by not being able to be vulnerable and intimate. And so I think, that's a big subject, but I think that's really huge also in healing the whole, because that's what to me, everything starts with relationship. And it's truly the relationship between the masculine and the feminine. And that's going to go down from the creation of this universe with the masculine and feminine to the mother, the father, their children, and then husband and wives and siblings and the whole thing. Because that's where the true disconnect is.
Okay. The outside, what you see on the outside is what you got on the inside. What you got on the inside is what you see on the outside. Now, if I'm a man and I'm having issues with women, it's because my spirit is having issues with my own will, right? If you're a woman and your man's treating you like shit, it's because your spirit, which is the man, treats you like shit. I'm not good enough. I got to be humble. I got to be over nice. I got to take care of them. You see what I'm saying? You're treating yourself like shit, and then the man treats you like shit, okay? It all comes down to spirit, heart, will, and body. And if you don't get that relationship right first, then nothing else is good. Then you're going to be in a relationship with your wounds. And your wounds who want attention, your wounds want to be felt. They will go out and find somebody who will match your wounds and then crush you until you feel them. And then they'll crush you again if you don't feel it. If you don't feel it and heal it, so bad relationship after bad relationship, or dissatisfying, or maybe it's just empty. If you're empty inside, then you get an empty relationship and an empty relationship and an unfulfilling relationship. If it's not right in here, then it's not going to be right out there. I guarantee you. You want the natural man, the natural woman. It is this one, the Shiva and the Shakti, the man, the spirit and the will. If you don't get those two right and balance in the heart, there is no relationship going on in the world. You're in relationship with your wounds, or you're in relationship with your mother or your father, or you're in relationship with the fantasy of the one who will heal you or save you from your spirit, heart, will, and body not being incongruent in alignment. You see what I'm saying? It's impossible. Now, people can live real nice and happy, but what it is, they're not really connecting to them. They're like in a little what do you call it? Like Halloween. They're like role playing. I'll play the daddy, you play the mom, and there's the kids, and we have this little role playing, and they actually live on this kind of role play. And there's a whole lot of families like that, and they live actually pretty happy, but there's nothing real about it, which is okay. I don't have any judgment about that. At least they're not killing each other, or they're not getting divorced and stuff. There's a lot of people who live very happy, and it's kind of like because they kind of like accept the other person, they accept themselves just enough so they don't have to deal with it. But
I've said that's like I don't know if that's necessarily happy. Maybe we're describing something different, but I did a little video on my YouTube channel called "Are We Just Coexisting?" Something like that. I can't remember exactly how I've termed it, but it's where we get to this point where we've given up on the idea of love, and we've given up on the idea of of fulfillment. and living in our will, so people will just coexist. So what we do is we're like, okay, well, we're having breakfast together, lunch and dinner. You're mowing the grass, I'm washing the dishes. You take the kids to school, I'll do this, and we're living together, we're cohabitating, but we're completely, again, we're kind of numb to one another. So it's not that we're necessarily happy. We're definitely not fulfilled. So we've just learned to coexist. Now, there is, for me, like when I look at the reality and I say, well, I can be a role player, but I can also be an observer. And when I'm in an observation mode, I'm truly in a state of neutrality. I'm not being triggered, and I'm in a place where I can just observe and see everything, and I accept everything as is. We're not going to be that 100% of the times. There's going to be times, because of our wounds, when we are triggered and we go right back into that reactionary state. But in that I had actually written this down for today. I was like, but what about for those that have chosen to coexist, when they just stop even trying? They're kind of stuck in that mode. You know, what do they do when they're at that place?
You're not gonna ever have like a really fulfilling relationship. You can have wonderful, loving relationships, a very nice, normal relationship, but fulfilling is a different story. I mean, you'd have to look. You can have a nice relationship with your dog, because you don't really expect much from the dog other than to be a dog. But when you get in a relationship with a human, it's like, well, he's not doing this, and I got to do that, and then there's this power struggle, and who's on top and who's on bottom, and all this other kind of crap comes up. But that makes it really difficult to have a relationship. Trust me, is to have the man become loving to the woman inside of you, have the woman to be able to embrace and support the man, and have them both balance in the heart. That's really cool. Okay, I'm going to tell you something that, you know, they talk about. Who's that? There's some lady who talks about the alien love bite. You ever heard that one?
Oh, Eve Lorgan.
Yeah, she's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something now that almost nobody ever talks about. Nobody ever knows, right? You got Shiva and Shakti. These are in your chakra system, right? Right. So Shiva and Shakti. This is Shiva up here, which is the man. Shakti is the woman. And they're meant to be merged together. And they are gods. They are gods of this body. They are God, and they're also gods of creation. They're the creator gods. You see what I'm saying? So you're talking about these way powerful beings. Now, here you are with Shiva, and you've trained Shiva not to talk to Shakti, and Shakti not to talk to Shiva, right? So you're just like living your normal life, and there's no connection there, right? So Shiva never gets to feel Shakti, and Shakti never gets to feel, you know, when you have Kundalini rising, you know, Kundalini awakening, that's the Shiva, that's the Shakti coming up and saying hello to Shiva. It's like, whoa, computer on, you know what I mean? That's powerful stuff. Or enlightenment, that's when your life force goes up in your, right? So here's the thing. So there's the inner man and the inner woman, and they are gods. If you're even close to anything, to awareness, and you start to go out away from your inside to the outside, and you go to this man or this woman, there's actually a kind of a betrayal. It's like, that means either Shiva is cheating on Shakti, or Shakti is cheating on Shiva. And it's like, that ain't going to stand. There's a possibility that that's not going to stand until you get to Shiva and Shakti, till you get the spirit and will connected inside first. They're not going to, there's like this jealousy thing. Why are you going to go outside yourself for someone who's not a goddess when you have a goddess inside you? Why are you going to go outside yourself for a god, for the night on the white knight in the shining white castle? Why are you going to go for a god that's, when you have a god inside of you? Why are you going to go for this guy out here? You see what I'm saying? So you're saying when internally, when your masculine and feminine have not connected in harmony, then when you seek an actual physical other being, then it's like, wait a minute, you haven't even you're not even in relationship with me. So for you to go seek relationship outside of me, that's a betrayal. For you, no man will ever be Shiva. For me, no woman will ever be Shakti.
Mm.
See, there's no way that a physical person on the outside of your skin can be that god or goddess completely. You can have moments of tantra or moments where you hit those vibrational frequencies and, the world starts to, whatever, those climatic, sacred, holy sex and all that kind of, you can have that, but it doesn't stay. That's not a place you can stay at, because when you get to that level of sexuality and love and all that kind of stuff, then you're already back inside. You're already back inside to your spirit, heart, will, and body again, you see? And that's what's opening up, and that's what's going to the realms. But it's not about the other person at all, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but there is a
yeah. I mean, I do get what you're saying, and I get that on the sexual part, but I'm even talking about, like, just forget, like, someone that's not even necessarily choosing a life partner. I'm talking about, like, the frequency, the vibrational frequency discord between masculine and feminine in general on our planet, to where there's not this need to, like, dominate one or the other, and to be able to, like, come to a place of respect and honor each for their attributes and what they bring in to the world. And I feel like, there's a disconnect, because not everyone's going to choose to have a life partner. Not everybody wants to be in a relationship like that, other than with themselves.
Well, okay, I'm talking ideal. What's actually manifesting on Earth is Luciferian crap all the way up to your eyeballs.
Mm.
And what was Lucifer? Lucifer, remember when the star was being created, and you have this, what is potentially going to be the God and the mother of everything. So you have spirit and will. And the first thing that happens is this explosion. And the explosion goes out against the will and then damages her. Okay? This is Lucifer. Lucifer is imprinted with damaging the emotional body, damaging the woman, hurting, killing, destroying, discounting. And this goes to the feminine, this goes to the black race, and this goes to children. Whatever has the most feeling is going to get hurt and crushed by this damaged light, which is usually a man doing it, because men have this the light, right? So that's what's going on in the world. Is the spirit actually is like the fall. The spirit is the fallen angel, which hates humanity. What it hates about humanity, what it hates about Mother Earth and the natural man and the natural woman, is the feelings, because it wasn't made out of feelings. It was made out of just pure light, had no heart in it, and had no will in it, right?
So that's like the false light. So you're, like, referring to, like, the false light.
It's not the false light. It's the real light. It's the real light, but it is damaged.
Mm.
It is God's denied self-hatred.
Okay, like the alter ego.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what's in control now of Earth. So whenever you have the oppression of the will of the people, you have oppression of the brown people, the oppression of the black people, oppression of women, oppression. You see what I'm saying? And the stuff with children being taken and raped and murdered and eaten and all that kind of crap. That's all Luciferian stuff. And that all is also inside of us, believe it or not. As bad as it is out there, we got it inside of us too, because remember what I said, the spirit, heart, will, and body, and your will represents your inner child.
Yeah.
So all that stuff of the children being taken away from home, that's inside of us. Our will is being, denied. So it's being taken away from its right place, which is in harmony. So it's like the children are taken away, or abused, or tortured, or, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The vibrational frequency is identical to what we do to ourselves. Mm-hmm. So however, if you want to stop child abuse and women's abuse and rape and murder and all that stuff, it all has to do with making your spirit light loving, passing through the heart into your will. And this is what real healing is all about.
Yeah.
If you don't have a loving light embracing your whole being, then it's all show business. It's nothing real about it. Did we go too much into the deep end of the pool today?
No, I think we have done well. I wanted to see if there's anyone else before we do start closing, if there's anyone else that has any questions or anything that they would like to share. Anything you want to ask Michael, or anything you want to share about your own personal experiences? All right, everybody's quiet. So I would like to say,
Natalie was going to say something.
oh, good. Okay. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to share something. For me, the ultimate wound is seeing someone or something as more or as less as myself. Because that is when I look back, all of my wounds, abandonment or rejection, abuse, and then I went back and back and back, lifetime after lifetime. And then I came to a point where I realized I saw someone else's will as more important than my own will. That has been my ultimate distortion, seeing someone else as a god or goddess above me. And there, for me, comes this distortion, why we think we have to obey or we have to dominate someone else. And so for me, is the ultimate healing is nothing shall come between me and me. Nothing shall come between you and you. And this is, the inner marriage. And when you're at this point and you accept yourself totally, you will accept everyone else also as untouchable and standing in their own right. And for me, that's the ultimate healing. Yeah.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Yes, if we deny our own will in favor of somebody else, that is abuse. You know, if a mother has to deny herself for her children and her husband and keep it all together, well, there's an abuse there, and she's going to pay for it later. Men who have to feel like they have to sacrifice themselves for their job or for whatever, there's a price to pay for that. But and again, it is spirit not connecting to the will, and thoughts not connecting to feeling, the man not connecting to the woman, the parents not connecting to the child. You see how it's all the patterns of the ills of the world are also nested within our patterns, and these patterns are not only nested within us, but they go all the way out to the beginning of creation. There is nothing that is actually causal from humans' point of view. We are swimming in the patterns of creation itself when we're in our pain and suffering. And the miracle is that we can actually heal our pain and suffering. I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Will you help me? That begins the process of accumulating, taking little pieces, like, and you said in past life and past life and past life and past life, you take a little piece from a past life and you bring it back. Will you help me? I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal. And you actually go back into sort of like the ascent. When we were descended into matter, we lost, each time we descend from another step down, we lost a little bit of love, we lost a little bit of connection, we lost a little bit of feeling, we lost a little bit of wholeness. We become fragmented. So we begin to build our fragments back up. I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Will you help me? I want to live. I want to be fulfilled. And you can actually bring all this around. And I think it's very organic. You know, whether you do it with my modality, language lessons of the heart, or you do it whatever, however you do it, it's organic. We are meant to to suffer and then heal, and then sort of like there's a type of a conquering of the suffer. You know, the fear has a limit. First of all, God has a limit. A lot of people don't know that, but God definitely has a limit, because God was created out of the will. Only thing that doesn't have a limit is will, which is absolute inclusivity and unconditional love. But God has a limit, and then pain has a limit, fear and anger has a limit. So if you only go so much into fear, and then fear doesn't bother you anymore. You can only go so much into anger, and then anger doesn't bother you anymore. You can only go so much into grief, and grief doesn't bother you anymore. You can only go so much into, your pain, and your pain doesn't your pain ends. And when your pain ends, it ends by being connected to all the pain in the universe, and then that ends. It's a pretty beautiful process, really. It's the birth of the new consciousness. We're not going to take this denial and the crap that we're living in now into the next level. That's not going to happen. So whether it's my modality, which is a pretty good one, or somebody else's, there's a lot of other modalities out there that are pretty powerful. You get to heal your emotions and resolve your inner conflicts and get rid of your belief systems. Whatever modality that hits those notes, you know, that's going to have to happen.
Yeah. And when you can feel the pain of the whole universe, and that's when judgment dissolves.
Well, it's also the birth of compassion.
Yeah.
Because you don't feel anything extra. You don't feel extra. You feel what yours is the pain of the universe. So you don't feel the extra.
Yeah.
A lot of people get worried about that. You know, when Christ, whatever it was, he died. He felt he took all the pain of the world. You know, that was his pain. That was nested into our pain. Same thing with Buddha. When Buddha awakened, he awakened from his suffering, and when he awakened, the whole world awoke with him. That's what's going on. Your awakening is the whole world's awakening. Your end of your suffering is the end of suffering for the whole world. That's how it goes. That's how it works on that level. Because you're actually healing the pattern of the frequency that's been from the beginning.
Yep. And I'll just share this. You know, this is something that I say and I share with people. I'm a creator being, and I only want what is real. I am done with suffering. I am a creator being. I only want what is real. I am done with suffering. And that's a choice we make. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much. Michael, I think this has been just a great discussion. I appreciate everyone that's been here and your participation. I feel like this is, for me, it's been very enjoyable, very empowering, and I feel like it has been for others, and I feel like it will be for those that hear it online. And I just want to thank everyone so much for being here, and we might do this again, I think.
Yeah, I got 2 or 3 more processes. We just talked basically about one, so we could do it again if you want.
Yeah, maybe in a couple months we'll go and do another round and let everybody have time to hear what was shared today. And you'll probably have more people that want to come on and participate. Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
Bye,
Thank
all my
you.
friends.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot for everybody showing up.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.